welcome to Yoga for Brain People. I'm Nick Mercer of Concussion Talk and Concussion Talk Podcast. I'm joined by Doctor of Physical Therapy and Athletic Trainer Lauren Ziaks of Phoenix Concussion Recovery and by yoga teacher Teresa Butler of Teresa Butler Wellness. Today we're going to talk about yoga and many benefits it has for people who have had a brain injury, which of course includes concussion. First, I'll let my co-hosts introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Lauren Ziaks. It's great to be here. I'm a concussion specialist for Wasatch Physical Therapy in Park City, Utah, and I'm also the co-founder of Phoenix Concussion Recovery, which you can find at phoenixconcussionrecovery.com.
And hi, I'm Teresa Butler of Teresa Butler Wellness, and I am a yoga teacher. I teach many different levels and styles. I'm also a nutritionist and a doula, so I do home births and support women through their labor experience. And through yoga and meditation, I've helped a lot of people with recovering out of any sort of injuries, PTSD, and any sort of trauma.
That's great. So, Teresa, what type of yoga do you teach now?
Well, there's many different styles. Kundalini, Hatha, I do prenatal, postnatal, I do very gentle styles as well. But the most that I definitely get the biggest benefit and the most changes would definitely be Kundalini yoga, which is a very dynamic, fast-paced yoga, but it's meant to retrain the brain and the neurotransmitters of the brain to basically deal with your nervous system in recovery.
So I guess you guys don't kind of answer this, but I know you do a lot of like rowing and basketball, but why yoga? What's about yoga that makes you so happy and makes you feel good? Does that affect your basic attitude? You have a great attitude, so how does that affect your attitude towards life, do you think?
Well, my background is definitely a lot of sports, and I was never really ever into yoga, but it was an injury that brought me to yoga. So I found it really struggling at first that I couldn't do everything that I was normally able to do on a day-to-day basis with training and things like that. And someone mentioned yoga, so I gave it a try, and it really humbled me in a lot of ways because I had to slow down, and then I had to really listen to my body and the things that I could do and not try and force myself to do the things that I was normally able to do. And I found it really helpful, and it helped me to get back into recovery. It helped me with my mind to settle it down and to be very accepting of, what my body was going through, and to just be patient. And that's how meditation and yoga and that form really helped switch my mindset.
Great. So mostly it's the mental aspect of it, not the physical, or both, or do you think it's just mental that's not physical and the physical is mental?
It's both. Yeah. It's like mind-body connection, and a lot of times we, when we're used to doing something some way, we get caught in that way, and when our body goes through any sort of trauma or injury, then we need to really learn how to slow down, and that comes the mental aspect of it, to be able to just accept where you're at in your body.
So, Teresa, can you explain quickly the difference between these different types of yoga? You mentioned this Kundalini yoga. I know that there's other practices such as restorative. You said the word Hatha. What's sort of the down and dirty of the difference?
Well, your Hatha style is your traditional yoga of your downward dogs, your warrior twos, your your child's pose. There's many different variations that come from Hatha, but that's the main style of yoga. And then branching off from that would be a yin style. It's also a part of yoga, but you do the poses. They're very gentle poses, but you hold them for long periods of time, and you use different props to help you through that. So you could be in a pose for probably 5 to 7, maybe 10 minutes. So it's to really get into the myofascia of your muscles, and it really helps. Then the breathing aspect really helps you to get through that. Kundalini is a very fast-paced, dynamic style of yoga, and we do fast-paced. So we hold the poses for long periods of time, but they're fast-paced. So we do intense breathing called breath of fire, which is powerfully in and out through the nose. We do a lot of basically trying to find the calm in the chaotic. That's the way I kind of like to say it. So you get really intense. It's very physically demanding, but it's to basically retrain your brain. So to get all your neurotransmitters firing properly, and to basically help break through a lot of obstacles, also mentally and physically. There's vinyasa flow, so that's more of a fast-paced kind of style where you do a lot of vinyasas and chaturangas, and it's more heat-based that you would generate that kind of style. And then you have your prenatal, your postnatal, obviously for maybe babies and mamas-to-be. And then I don't teach much restorative, but restorative is basically like a sleepy time yoga where you probably do maybe 3 to 4 poses within an hour, and you're all about like resting on a bolster or pillows and just kind of filling up all the spaces between you and the ground to just let your body relax and to let the muscles kind of just roll off your bones in a way, to just get really tapped into the breathing, to your sympathetic your parasympathetic nervous system, and yeah, those are pretty much I mean, there's tons and tons more, but those are some of the big ones that a lot of people get attracted to.
It's funny that you say the sleepy time yoga, because I had my first experience with that, with the restorative yoga, over the holidays. My mom and my sisters took me to this place, and we went there, and they talked about the moonbeams and this, that, and the other thing. It was really different from anything I've ever experienced before. I had a really hard time wrapping my brain around it, but I could totally see how it can help with relaxation and help with the meditation. My sisters were all jazzed up about how relaxed they felt afterwards. So I was kind of thinking to myself during the class that it would be a great first step for someone who's early on in the recovery phases, because like you said, you're only doing a few poses per hour. It's more about the relaxation and the breath. But then you can transfer that idea into other types of yoga too. So can you talk about maybe what to do to pace and how to sort of modify your practice?
Yeah, I mean, I learned that the hard way because I'm used to doing things very fast-paced and very intense. And when I had to take a step back out of my injury that I got, I found it really, really mentally challenging. That was my biggest thing, because your body is not doing what it's normally used to doing. You know, you're kind of all over the map. So you're just trying to like retrain how your body's working. And definitely the restorative is by far one of the best ones for beginners or people with a lot of injuries can come into, because you're not, a lot of times when you go to these, normal classes or these even intermediate beginner classes, you can't do a lot of the poses and you feel frustrated about it. And then so you don't even want to do it anymore anyways. But when you come to a restorative style or the yin, which is still like restorative, but a little bit more, you do a little bit more poses into it, you're able to really get the benefits of accepting where your body's at and just kind of letting go and allowing yourself to just enjoy where you're at and not rushing to another pose. Because a lot of times people get into yoga and, they finally get into that spot and then the teacher's gone off doing another pose and, you're not really helpful in any way of yourself or your student. So definitely restorative for people who have, some major injuries or things that they're trying to recover from. Definitely that one. I also struggle with restorative because you're just lying there sometimes and you're like, I'm cold. What am I doing? I don't know if I can do this anymore. But that's the mind.
Ours.
So I'm like, I want to move. But that's a part of the practice too, of just like letting your body relax, because we don't know how to relax in this world anymore.
And you could feel your mind almost like you're not falling asleep, but you could feel maybe that's what meditation is. I have a really hard time with meditation, but I could feel my brain sort of like drifting into not a sleep, but almost a sleepy state. So it was weird, not to judge, because yoga is all about not judging, but it was definitely a different thing for me, for sure. I more enjoy that vinyasa flow you were talking about. It's a better transition for someone like me. Before all my head injuries, I was more of an athlete, and it's a better transition for me than that sort of preachy yoga. Like I find myself being more annoyed during the preachy yoga, and some people love that, which is what's so great. Is there's different ones for everybody. But I like that hot room, and I like that it feels like a workout. But I found that I have to pace myself a lot when I'm in there because I'm not really an athlete anymore. So can we just talk about maybe, like, as a teacher, what can people do to adapt their practice, especially early on, or if they have whiplash injuries to their neck, or maybe dizziness because of a head injury? Like, what sort of adaptations, and is there judgment if you do that?
Well, I mean, that's the one thing pretty much like every teacher will say, like, go with your own breath, go with your own movement. Child's pose is always there. Don't push you'll always hear that too. Like, don't push yourself, or, a lot of times even still, it's like, well, maybe push yourself a little bit, but then take a little break. It's this kind of give or take of wherever you're at. So for people with any sort of injury, it's very, very important to definitely tell your teacher that. Because if you walk in and you've got, like, from head to toe, you've got everything going on in the world, your teacher may not know that, right? And so by telling your teacher that, then they can help modify different positions. So when you go in there, there's usually, like, you're in a pose, it's like, okay, stay here for a little bit, but if you've got a little bit more, maybe you can come to this kind of level. And maybe if you want to go a little bit more, you can come here. So I usually find there's always different, I call them bus stops, I guess, where you can be in a yoga class with a certain pose. So you can have, everywhere from a beginner to an advanced in one class, but as long as you listen to your body and just go to that level where you're at. And it's always, I guess, preached or encouraged to stay in your own level, right? Like, to try and not go beyond what your body can do, because a lot of times, whether you have an injury or not, you're looking around the room and you just want to do what someone else is doing. So it's very, 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 very important, because if anything, you might injure yourself more. So I love, as a teacher, and as a student, seeing someone just go into child's pose, or not even listening to what I'm saying anyway, because they're just doing what their body's doing. Everyone has different body, everything have different body parts, different ways. Sometimes you may feel really tired. Sometimes you feel really spicy. And anyone who is recovering from anything, I mean, you're just trying to figure out what your body's doing again. So whenever I see someone stop what I'm doing and do what they want to do, I am just like, I want to go over and give them a high five, because they're listening to their body and they're actually going to get something out of it. It's like, don't listen to my big mouth. Like, you listen to your body. Like, if you just want to lie in Shavasana the whole time, awesome.
I think it's really crucial that people understand what you're saying, because when you're human nature is you want to do whatever the teacher asks you to do, or you want to sort of rise to the challenge. And the teacher at every class is going to say, child's pose is always there, but then in human nature you think, oh, I don't want to be one of those people. But through practicing yoga, and I wouldn't say I'm the most consistent with it, but I've started to learn that when they say your practice is yours alone, they really mean that. And in the beginning, I was super paranoid that other people would be judging me, because these other people in the class are amazing. And I remember there's this woman who was 8 months pregnant who could do these balance poses that I couldn't do. And in a moment in my head, I thought, well, what the heck, this pregnant lady can do this and I can't, But then you just have to sort of get over it, and you have to realize that, okay, I'm not going to be able to do what she can do right now, but maybe if I keep working on it, I'll get there, or I'll get to a better level. Just last night, I was in one of my hot yoga classes, and I was having one of those days where I was just more reactive to the heat, or maybe it was hotter or more crowded, and I was trying so hard to push through, and I was like, I want to do the same poses on my left side that I did on my right side. I want to be even. And then I found myself that I was about to pass out, and so it was very humbling, because I just had to take a child's pose, regroup myself, get less lightheaded, and then I was able to join back in, and it really wasn't that big a deal, and nobody cared, and I moved on pretty quickly. So you have to just try your best to modify your practice. And some of the accommodations that I'll use that may help other people, I'll limit my neck range of motion. So if they're twisting and they're telling you to look up at the ceiling, for instance, I have a neck injury and I'm not able to do that. And so it helps to decrease my symptoms, and it lets me last longer in the class. So even though they're telling you to gaze at the ceiling, I do better looking straight ahead. And it's no big deal. No one's ever come over to me and insisted I look up at the ceiling. I'll skip all the inversions, and I'll never try handstands or leapfrogs. Early on after my head injury, I tried them because I was in denial and it didn't go well. So now I just sort of skip that and I'll do something else. So I'll do a plank or a dolphin pose, or whatever I feel in the moment that I want to do, I'll do that, and then I'll rejoin them when they're done with their leapfrogs, which is when you jump up onto your arms and put your head at risk because your legs are floating up in the air.
Sure. I mean, that sounds hard no matter what. I want to skip that too.
I'm like, I'm all set with those leapfrog things, okay?
And it was a good point that you made too. Like, your left and your right are completely different anyway. So there's going to be some times where you're like, oh, wow, like this Warrior 2 feels awesome. But you go to your other side and you're like, whoa, this doesn't. And that's a cool thing to even just be aware of your own body, right? So there's no symmetry in our body. So it's like, I want to be similar on both sides, but you can't no matter what.
Great. So actually, so speaking for the first time in a while, but Lauren, do you want to talk briefly about the science and research behind the yoga and brain injuries?
Yeah, sure. So I had to do some research to do this portion myself. Again, I'm into yoga a little bit, but I'm not nearly as into it as some people are. I wish I was. But first and foremost, if you're looking for any information about yoga and brain injuries, loveyourbrain.com, which is Kevin Pierce's organization, is incredible. There's a lot of communities now in the U.S. I'm not sure about Canada, but there's a lot of communities in the U.S. that are actually offering meditation and yoga community programs. And they're trying to offer these either free of cost or low cost, which is great because in Park City, a drop-in yoga class can cost $25 to $30. So if you're not going to be able to do half the class, that might be a burden of entry, or financially, a lot of people aren't working, so that might be a burden of entry, a high-cost class. So currently in Utah, we don't have any, but our co-founder, Melinda, is working on trying to facilitate a relationship with them and bringing some of those services here to us. So that'll be really exciting. Yoga is an area that's growing in research, and especially yoga and meditation together. They've been able to prove with some early studies that it can help with attention, stress management, memory, and then, of course, your balance, strength, endurance, and flexibility because it's exercise. So one study out of Indiana University found that adapted yoga for TBI improved their balance by 36%, the subject's balance confidence by 38%, their lower extremity strength by 100%, and their endurance by 105%. So that's really exciting. Those are huge gains, and this is only adapted yoga. So this is yoga that was made for people with TBI versus just going in your mainstream classroom. If that's not available in your area, or you don't have a Love Your Brain type organization, just adapt your local practice to your needs like we described earlier. Memory can be found to improve after yoga and meditation, and this is believed to be part of the activation and thickening of the prefrontal cortex. There's a study by Johansson and their colleagues from 2012 where they found an 8-week course would decrease mental fatigue, and it improved results on neuropsychological testing. So they were able to find that it helped with that brain fog and that brain fatigue people with brain injuries will feel. And then, of course, it helps to manage stress, and this is believed to be because of decreasing the size of the amygdala, and that's the area in our brain which controls our fear and anxiety. So there's a lot of chemical changes that are actually happening in our brain when we do things like meditation and yoga. And that's a lot of positive reactions you can get from just one simple exercise program. But like anything else in life, it's a skill, and over time, your practice is going to improve. You're going to build your strength, your flexibility, your balance, and endurance, and you'll get more and more out of every practice. You have to just start wherever you start. You can't get frustrated, and you'll just got to know that you're going to keep moving up from wherever you began.
Teresa, do you want to just tell people a little bit about where they can find yoga? And I don't know, well, not necessarily in your area, because we're in St. Thomas, we're in a very small community, but
well,
yeah.
That's the Google's really good for that. So I guess just find somewhere close that's next to you, and find a place. If you've never went to yoga, or if you have any sort of injuries, look for any beginner style workshops to get in, just to know like different styles, different words, because a teacher's going to be saying all sorts of different poses, and if you have to look up all the time to try and figure out what they are, that may not be very beneficial for anyone with a head or neck injury. So just get on the Google, see where you're at, and hopefully find something that can really help you.
Okay, yes, I started my last year. I didn't start yoga until 2016, And second class I went to was Teresa's Kundalini class, and I found it just so I had trouble walking there, but it was so good. I went every week since until I had to have surgery, but it's just an amazing class, and so Kundalini is not for everyone, obviously, but I feel like a challenge. That's a great one, and I did a lot of classes at Nova Yoga in St. John's. So Melanie Kane's the studio, and I've been to ones I sailed as well, and yeah, just been like I've done Yin, I've done the Vinyasa, and I haven't actually done much of sort of. I mean, I did one class, but mostly it's been Kundalini and Vinyasa. But yeah, so I think this was a great podcast, and yeah, so thank you both for helping me co-host this. Well, from doing hosting this one, I'm more the co-host. You guys are more the hosts this one. So. But thanks a lot. Had a great one. Had a great conversation. Thanks a lot.
All right. Bye, Lauren.
Bye. Thanks.
As always, music at the beginning of this podcast is by Ben Sound. www.bensound.com.